Mm-hmm. Mr. Techie.
We'll have feedback.
You probably will. If you're both in the same room, you'll have feedback because there'll be a delay.
Hey, Paul.
In the back room, probably. Okay. So,
how are we doing tonight?
What I'm going to recommend is.
Well, thanks. How about you? How's Paul doing?
Pretty good. Either you set yours up and run through yours, connect into the room and share your screen, or I can share the document from my screen and you can just talk through Tony's and just tell me what page to go to. Talk to Tony through Tony's computer. Okay. Just sit by her and do hers, whichever you want to do. Because I have the document already pulled up to share.
Sure. Yeah, that's
fine. I think I'm my fourth time now. I get to follow along with you. I kind of know where you're going.
You don't know where I'm going today.
But I think just tell me what page you want me to be on, and I'll find it.
I was going to start with the letter.
Right.
And then I was just going to go to page 44 in the financial statement.
Okay.
It's like a summary.
Can I have one of these?
Yep. I can set that up already. You want to come in and look at and see?
Real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired this week,
mm-hmm.
and last week I started losing interest, so I don't want to go beyond 8 o'clock.
No, I don't either.
Okay.
You made it till 8 o'clock before you lost interest?
Last week? Yeah, or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, last week, and I wasn't
Yeah, it was last week. It was our off week, yeah.
Yeah, it was last week, and
Here's the letter,
mm-hmm.
right? You run through that, and then here's the financial.
Yeah.
Of course, you're going to be on page 44.
44.
Which schedule of finding responses.
46. So that's just like the summary.
Right there. And then you'll just hit this page, and as you go along, I'll just scroll down.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to see it on her computer.
Okay.
So if I'm behind, just yell at me.
Well, I've never had to do it where I've had to share my screen, you know, and I'm going to try and keep it that way.
Okay, that's fine. So these two things are ready to go. If you want to just cover this, and I'll scroll through it as you talk through it, and then I'll jump to the next document, and you'll be ready to go.
Okay, so are they even going to be able to see me?
Up until I share the screen.
Well, if I'm sitting right next to her, you know, I didn't know if I was supposed to talk with the mask on or.
You can take it off. You're not going to be here more than 15 minutes, are you? That's the rule. In close proximity for more than 15 minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
So you'll be all right.
Yeah,
We generally don't wear masks in here unless we have an outsider in for a lengthy period of time, you're not going to be talking for more than 15 minutes. It's a quick and easy one this year, isn't it? I like it. Next year be even better. So I did. This is my transfers for this year, for the budget for this year. It literally took me 15 minutes because I do it this way now. You right down the line in the budget report. Just highlight the transfers because the issue is, like, normally on this sheet, transfers turn up at the end. Transfer to equipment fund, right? But then some of these others are transfers that are in the middle. But when I have to go put the police expense number in, the police expense number is this minus this transfer and minus this transfer. So this number is irrelevant to me because when I put it in in order to keep track of this stuff, and this is where we get screwed up for, because these transfers exist in different areas.
And we have to eliminate a lot of them in the financial statements because they're like, the general fund is for funds, really.
Right.
And so all the ones between those, I know I got recorded in different funds, but they're in one fund on the financial statement. So all the ones that are
right
to cemetery to general and back and forth, you gotta get rid of all of them. Every year, I'm like,
yeah. And so this thing now eliminates me having to think about it because I just follow it along in this report and bing, bang, bang. And if I have to add some, I add them in the right spot. And my totals all here. See, real nice. Total out, total in. Everything balances out. Oh my God. It's crazy. They would spend days arguing about transfers, trying to track transfers. Where do we lose this number? This is all wrong. Not anymore. 15 minutes. Bing, bang, done. It just matters, for this thing, it matters where you're taking it from and where you're sending it to.
Well, it has to be a transfer.
Right. But so, like, there's transfer out of road use, which is a special use, into debt service.
Right.
So you have to transfer out of special use into.
But it needs to be in transfer out account, not,
Right. But then when you get to the last, right, you're right. But then when you get to the end sum page, your special use transfers out are transferred into a general fund spending because you put it in capital is where you put it. And each one of those things has to line up and match in your end number. And that's where we get, one of these small transfers would get lost and not recorded correctly. And then the whole thing was all screwed up and you can't figure out where the hell to get it at. Yeah. Well, that doesn't happen anymore.
We generate a report that has the transfers on it, and it should be zero.
Probably.
But,
what's that?
Hi, Brent.
Hanging in there?
I came out here and it said no video, whatever, too. I'm not sure.
Good?
You're dropping your Wi-Fi.
I didn't do it. It did it. I wasn't even in here. Tell me what I have to do this if it doesn't in the middle of the
Boy, they're noisy.
meeting.
How you doing, Anna?
What do you
Pretty good. How about you?
What's the globe?
Good.
do? Yeah.
See, we have Dan tonight.
And there was no
Yeah,
Wi-Fi,
hello,
so I
everybody.
clicked the Wi-Fi thing and it connected to the Wi-Fi.
How doing, Randy and Brent?
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies.
Hey, what's game time, Steve?
Put in a platinum ticket and have them look at it. Everybody get my awesome explanation of what's going on with the transfers. I seem to have lost my hearing audio.
we missing, Andrew?
I have 6 o'clock, Your Honor.
I do too. Who are we missing? We missing any council members?
There's Marty.
I think we've got everyone, Your Honor.
All right, that being said, then let's bring the meeting to order. Roll call, please, Tony.
Bowman,
Here.
Varner,
Here.
Schnorr,
Here.
Feller,
Here.
Brightman,
Here.
Great, thank you. Please take a moment for silent prayer. Amen. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America. To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I would entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda with the one amendment, number 11 on the consent agenda.
So move. Bowman second.
Got a motion? And then a second. Roll call, please, Tony.
Schnorr,
Yes.
Brightman,
Yes.
Varner,
Yes.
Weller,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
All right, thank you. First up on the agenda this time of year, we have a visitor from Winkle, Parker and Foster. It is Andrea Rumler to go over our audit. So without further ado, Andrea, the floor is yours.
Now, thank you. Well, I'm going to start by going over a letter. It's our required communications related to the audit. So under qualitative aspects of accounting practices, we're just pointing out that management is responsible for the selection and use of appropriate accounting policies. And the significant accounting policies used by the city are in note 1 in the financial statements. The next paragraph talks about accounting estimates. Since you're a cash basis entity, there are no significant accounting estimates included in your financial statements. We didn't encounter any difficulties in performing or completing our audit. There were no corrected or uncorrected misstatements that we noted. No disagreements with management. And then on the next page, each year we request certain representations from management as part of the audit, and we have received those in a letter dated today. The next paragraph talks about consultations with other accountants, and to our knowledge, there were no other consultations. Under other matters, this paragraph is just talking about the information in schedules 1 through 4 in the financial statements. We did audit that information and are expressing an opinion on it. The next paragraph talks about the information on pages 28 through 35. That is the required supplementary information. We're just pointing out that we are not expressing an opinion or providing any assurance on that information. I'd like to skip over to the financial statements on page 44. There's a summary of auditor's results. So for the financial statements, we issued an unmodified opinion or a clean audit opinion. As part of the audit every year, we review the city's internal controls over financial reporting in order to design our audit procedures and identify any weaknesses in internal control. We did identify one item as a significant deficiency, and then there was one item that was material non-compliance. And I will go over those here in just a second. On page 45 is the segregation of duties issue, and that is the significant deficiency I referred to. And the cause is just that the city has a limited number of personnel performing accounting functions. This is nothing new, just something the city gets each year. And we're just recommend that the city be aware of the lack of segregation of duties and review controls that could be put into place to mitigate that risk. And the city's response is that they agree with the recommendations, however, believe that supervision by the mayor and members of the city council are considered mitigating factors, and that the city is also aware of the condition and will continue to monitor and implement compensating controls. On page 46, the instance of non-compliance related to the budget. So the budget wasn't amended to increase expenditures in the public safety function. The city didn't go over their budget in total, but they did by function, by $57,492. We just recommend that the budget is amended prior to expenditures exceeding an amount by function. And the response is that the city will amend future budgets in sufficient amounts to ensure the certified budget is not exceeded. Did anyone have any questions about any of those items?
No.
Just so council is aware that public safety overage was from flood issues, spending from projects that came up from the 2019 flood that carried over.
Any comments or questions from the council right now? You have anything further, Andrea?
I do not.
If there are no questions from council members, then we could probably send you on your merry little way if you so choose.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea.
You're welcome. Still smiling like they can see me.
We can hear you whispering too.
All right. Moving forward, public comments on any of the agenda topics. If there's anybody in the public who wants to make a comment on tonight's agenda topics, they can do so now, or as usual, we will be discussing the topics here shortly.
I see no hands raised,
Nothing,
Your Honor.
Andrew? All right, thank you. We'll move right along then. I would entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda as amended with number 11 added.
Bowman, so moved.
Warner, second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on any of the individual items? Questions? I see Councilman Bowman.
Dave Bowman. Yes, sir, Mr. Bowman.
Hi, I've got just a couple of quick questions on a couple of the items. First off, on the item for paying Manats for Park Drive, do we, recognizing there's weather involved, do we have any schedule for the completion of the required work at Park Drive for the Park Drive project?
As soon as the weather breaks, Councilman, that'll be pretty early on. They just need the snow and ice to clear out and the ability to redo that bit of concrete, and for the seed and stuff on the side of the road.
All right, sounds good. All right, thank you. And the other question I had is on item number 10. Can you very briefly explain to me what this is for? What are they doing with the tax abatement?
So the entire city of Camanche is an urban revitalization area for housing. So the citizens who put in for the tax abatement who don't qualify, who aren't in a residential TIF, are authorized a tax abatement of 100% tax abatement of $75,000 of an improvement. So if you build a new house, $75,000 of your assessed value gets abated for 3 years. That's part of the urban revitalization plan, and that's on the city's website, and I can send you a copy of that too. So we abate. It's a process by which it helps promote growth and improving of properties. So we abate the taxes for 3 years. That's all taxes, city, school, and county, and they get that for 3 years.
Okay, that's all. That's, thank you for answering the questions, and that's all I had. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No other hands?
I see no other hands, Your Honor.
Hearing none. No other hands, all right. Roll call, please then, Tony?
Bowman,
Yes.
Brightman,
Yes.
Varner,
Yes.
Weller,
Yes.
Schnorr,
Yes.
All right, thank you. We have no unfinished business. First up under new business, approved agreement with Access Industries for new office equipment. Andrew, I'll let you handle this.
Yes, sir, Your Honor. So we approached Access, who currently, we used to be with Midwest and for our printers, and Access bought them out. So now we deal with Access. The police department had looked at getting a new printer. They got theirs repaired, and it seems to be working better now. And we had these upgrades coming to City Hall, and our printer is a few years old. So what we were looking at maybe doing was bringing a new printer on here at City Hall and then transferring ours over to the police department. So the police department budget doesn't have to take the hit for buying a new printer, because this one works pretty well. And what we were really looking for too is the addition of a piece of equipment that will fold and stuff envelopes. We're looking to get out of the card business for sending out bills for a number of reasons. For when it comes to the cards for utility bills, they get lost in the mail easy. I know mail machinery chews them up sometimes. Sometimes they stick together, and it's a little more challenging for people to handle those and make their payments. What we're looking to do is go with a full page billing, so the actual printing of the paper is cheaper, and stuffing the envelopes and including a return envelope without postage paid, but just a return envelope so they can easily make their payments and send them back in. It also gives us the opportunity to fold and insert newsletters, so we're no longer paying that fee to Clinton Printing to send those out for us. So we can just stuff them inside that envelope. Plus, once you go to the full paper bill, you're able to add more information than what we can add in our 52 character spaces on those small cardstock, and a lot less handling. So we're looking at those two pieces, getting a new printer here, shifting our printer over to the police department so they have a better functioning printer. And if that printer is still functioning at that time, we'd consider maybe moving that over to the library so they have an alternate printer for staff rather than sharing a printer with the community who uses their printer. I haven't even talked to Anna. She's probably sitting, I can't see her. She's probably going, what? No, we're getting a printer? Yeah. So we're going to try and do that pass down thing so we're not getting rid of those bits of equity. We're actually holding on to it and repurposing them. So anyway, a couple of things about this proposal. As we look at, this is our current use, 2,075 monthly black and white images, copies, 813 color. Our current monthly expense is $122.92. Under this new plan, it would change to 2,500 with 1,250 color monthly, and that would be the rate if we leased the equipment of the copier, $232.04. If we purchase the equipment at $7,389, our monthly maintenance cost is $86.25 for 60 months, and that covers the replacing of the cartridges and any service calls that they have to do. That's what the $86.25 covers. So the lease is not that bad compared to what we're paying now. It's an extra $110, and it's all of the equipment is totally covered, and they still take care of everything. We're getting more volume in our printing, So that works out well. If we want to buy it, you know, there's a discounted price for that. This is the folding machine that we're looking at. It'll allow in 2 documents. There's 2 document feeders here. There's 2 envelope feeders here in the back. And everything happens internally, and it just drops all of your mailing down here at the bottom. That cost is $7,000, and it's a 1-year service agreement. Access is a very reputable organization. They've worked really well with us. They were the ones that we looked at when we were talking about looking for alternates for our IT services, and they were the ones who looked at our information from Platinum and said, yeah, that's a pretty good deal. Don't think we could beat it. So they're a very fair organization. So the 2 options are buy both pieces of equipment. We have the money in the equipment fund for City Hall. We could buy both pieces of equipment, or we could lease the copier and purchase the folding machine. In our discussions internally here at City Hall, we thought there'll be $25,000 in that equipment fund for us at the end of the year. This would eat up $14,000 of it. That would leave us with about $10,000, $11,000, somewhere around there. And the one concern that we had is, will we have extra money if we need it, if we want to buy extra furniture for City Hall during the expansion, or if we've overlooked some portions of equipment that we might need for City Hall, and are we going to cut ourselves short? So the staff recommendation was go ahead and buy the folding machine and lease the copier. The extra cost of the lease of the copier over the 60 months is about $1,200. So,
What was the purchase price, Andrew?
purchase price of the copier is $7,389. So let's see, 232.04 minus 86.25.
It's about $1,400.
Yep. Yep, it's about $1,400 extra over the 60 months.
Yeah, over 5 years, correct.
Yep.
Okay.
And that would at least assure us that we have enough money in the equipment fund if we have extra items that we need to purchase with the expansion of City Hall. Councilman Bowman, I see, has his hand raised. Go ahead, Councilman Bowman.
The annual service agreement, the folder after the first year. How much are we going to pay for that?
I didn't catch that. I don't know if it's me or you.
I think, Andrew, I believe he was asking the amount of the service agreement after the first year, I believe is what he was asking. On the envelope stuff.
That's right. That's correct.
Oh, I don't. I think it's yours after the first year.
Right, but to have a service agreement, you can continue a service agreement with them after the first year. That first year is included in the price, correct? I guess, what's it gonna be second year, third year?
We didn't ask for that. And I think the response from them about these pieces of equipment is they're fairly sturdy. They don't really have issues with these. So I can look into that to find out.
If they do, we don't know how to repair it.
Well,
if there is an issue.
The thing is, for the copier, the monthly cost is $86. I can't imagine this being more than that.
No, right. Yeah.
Councilman Varner has his hand raised. Oh,
Sorry, was somebody else saying something? I was looking at, see if I got the numbers here right. If we were to lease it, we'd be spending about 14,000 on it. If we were to buy, we'd spend about 12,400. Is that, now if we bought the machine, would that include the folder?
no. No, the lease
Am I not looking at
option,
that right?
the lease option is for the printer. The lease option is not for the folding machine. They do not lease that machine.
Okay. If we bought the machine, would that include the folder?
I don't understand. No, $7,389 is for the copier, Councilman. The folding machine is an additional $6,995.
Okay, that's why I couldn't see at the bottom.
Right. Yeah. This is the price of the folding apparatus.
Okay. All right, that answers my question. Thank you.
Councilman Brightman, you have the floor.
I think I agree with your staff, Andrew. I think we should buy the stacker and or the whatever you want to call it, and lease the machine.
Okay, Councilman Bowman.
Yeah, I agree with leasing the machine based on past experience I've got is definitely better to lease these because when they break down, and they will, the vendor is responsible to replace it. But I do have a concern over the folding machine. If we're going to have a year out of it and subsequent to that year, it just breaks and we don't have any expertise to fix it, we're going to be paying a lot of money. I'd prefer to have some kind of a continuing agreement to maintain that machine. So we're not, stuck 13 months from now when it stops working.
Right. I'll check into that, Councilman. I'll check into that, Councilman. When we received the demonstration from the supplier, the guy said they're the simplest machines in the world. They don't really have a whole lot of function. You open it up like a clamshell, and it's just something that feeds through, and that's it. Based on the impression that I received from the vendor, this isn't a machine that frequently breaks down where they experience a lot of trouble with them. And even if they do, they're very simple fixes. It's not like there's not a lot of moving parts. There's very few.
Well, either way, it's a $7,000 investment, and I agree with Councilman Bowman that we should have some sort of maintenance agreement.
Well, I'll work on that. I can't believe it's more than what the maintenance recommendation for the copier was.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way. Danny Weller has his hand up.
Danny Weller, Councilman Weller, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just think we should know if there is some kind of a maintenance agreement and get an idea what the cost is. Whether we go with it or not is one thing, but we shouldn't leave that out in the blind.
So sounds like to me, Andrew, that council's in agreement to lease the copier and purchase the stuffer. And I think that's a good idea. Andrew and I had that discussion too. It gives us some flexibility with City Hall and the project going on here, just in case we should need it as well.
I agree, and I'll get with you all on the cost of any maintenance agreement with that other piece of equipment. The important part about this stuffer is if we do at some point decide to go to monthly billing, this will go a long way towards eliminating a lot of steps that we have to take right now. This is going to save us a lot of time to begin with, but overall, it's going to be a much more familiar process for citizens, for water and sewer customers to get a bill in this form because it'll have the window and return address window, and we'll have that whole thing set up that way. So it's going to be a nice step forward for us overall. So we'll go ahead and execute that, and I'll send up, before we do that though, I'll send out some information on the maintenance agreement for the folding equipment.
Everybody good?
Yep.
All right. Moving forward under new business, it is with great sadness that I read this to accept the retirement letter of Public Works Director Mark Hilgendorf. Council has seen this, correct?
Yes.
Andrew? Yeah, I thought so. Okay.
Yes, you should be able to see it, Your Honor.
Yeah. Did you want me to read it?
If you would like to read it, sure.
Dear Mayor, Mr. Kita, and members of City Council, I would like to inform you that I will be retiring effective March 2nd, 2021. So my last day employed for the City of Camanche will be March 1st, 2021. I have truly enjoyed working for the City of Camanche for the past 32 plus years, and I appreciate the support provided to me as Public Works Director for the past 6 years. While I look forward to my retirement and what the future will bring, I will miss being a part of the team in the City of Camanche. I trust that the friendships I developed here will last well into the future. Can you go down a little bit? I can't read that last line, Andrew. If I can be of any assistance before my departure, please let me know. I'd be happy to provide whatever assistance I can provide in a smooth transition to my successor. Sincerely, Mark Hilgenberg. So, council want to accept the letter of resignation?
Need a
Or
motion?
retirement? I do need a motion, yes.
Also move. I don't like to, but also move.
Weller, I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Tony.
Schnorr,
Yes.
Bowman,
Oh,
did we lose him?
I don't know. He was stuttering and freezing up a little bit earlier. I don't know.
He was.
There we go. It says I'm unmuted.
You're cutting out a little bit.
It's. I say yeah, but I can't.
Okay, I got the yes.
got that.
All right. Okay, Brightman,
Yes.
Varner,
Yes.
Weller,
Like that. No.
Yes.
thank you. Got him.
Wait, there's something wrong.
Councilman Bowman, it shows your Wi-Fi signal is very low, so something's going on in your neck of the woods.
You're freezing up.
No, start.
So,
Mine's been running slow all day too.
we're good. We had the, are you good, Councilman Bowman? Want to make sure we have everybody here.
Talk to you.
All right.
Councilman Bowman, if you have things to add, you can use the chat box. That's going to show up for sure. And we'll be able to speak on your behalf that way if you have something to contribute until you get your signal taken care of. Okay.
Before moving forward, since council accepted that retirement letter, I would just like to personally and professionally thank Mr. Hilgendorf for his more than 32 years of service to the city of Camanche, and wish him well in whatever endeavor he chooses next. So, thank you, Mark. Moving forward under new business, authorize the city administrator to conduct a search for a new public works director and establish salary for the position. I think council establishes salary, to be quite truthful, but.
Well, I think that's the intent. That wasn't my intent for me to establish it. It's for council to establish it.
Oh, okay.
That's poorly worded. I'll take the grammatical hit.
It was a little confusing is also.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
Council establishes the salary there. My computer's being a little slow here. I have too many things running.
Councilman Bowman said he was unable to mute and unmute. Can you do that for him?
Yes. I see Councilman Bowman as unmuted, so, something that might help Councilman Bowman too is turning off his video. It looks like he's done that. So that might help. Okay, so I have two things for the council to consider, and I'm missing one of them, so I'm gonna dig for that real quick. But
Did you see John Fry's comment there?
yes, there was no roll call on the access.
You're correct.
Yeah.
But can we do a roll call without knowing the cost, without having that maintenance agreement?
It's up to council what they choose to do.
Well, I think, John Fry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if we do a roll call vote, it would be without the maintenance agreement, which would mean we'd have to vote again once we find out the amount of the maintenance agreement. Would that not be correct?
Let's see what's happening here. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah. I think what happened was the mayor kind of informally polled the council, and everybody said they were good. But then Andrew talked about perhaps signing the agreement, and if he's going to be authorized to sign, we probably do need a motion, but subject to, you may want to wait until you know what that maintenance agreement is. I think that's what
Right.
you were looking at, Your Honor. So there's a little confusion, and it might be well for the council to clear that up. And if there's a motion, whatever that motion would be, such as approve it subject to a maintenance agreement, or determining the cost of the maintenance agreement at a number less than a certain amount, or wait till next meeting.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say to Andrew. I don't think it's not going to hurt anything to wait 2 weeks, right?
I was looking at that, Your Honor. I don't recall if there was a timeline on how long the offer was good, the agreement was good for.
Well, if it's only 2 weeks, then I doubt we'd want to go with that outfit anyway. They're only going to give us a 2-week offer. I don't, because otherwise we can't have a roll call vote to approve it.
And again,
unless you approve it no matter what you want.
My point about that was I really don't think there was any kind of maintenance agreement on that piece of equipment. I don't think, I mean, they don't even lease those. You have to buy them.
Yeah, I understand that, but they're the outfit that is the expert on those, not us. And if something does go wrong, if there is a maintenance agreement, I think it's worth looking into. I think we can table it for 2 weeks if I don't think that's going to hurt anything.
Whatever council wishes to do, I'm fine with it. Councilman Brightman has his hand raised. Go ahead, Councilman Brightman.
I guess I don't understand. If we're buying the piece of equipment, then why do we have to have a maintenance agreement? Usually you have maintenance agreements if you're leasing equipment.
You have maintenance agreements if you lease or buy. It doesn't matter. You can get a maintenance agreement with leasing or buying. And I think without knowing, do we want to take the chance that we're just going to pay $7,000 and within a year it's going to go kaput and we have nothing to say about it?
Well, I would imagine it would have to come with some type of time frame.
Probably a year warranty. Yeah, probably a year.
So what's the difference if we purchase it now and a year's up? I'm sure it's the lease agreement or maintenance agreement is not going to be more than a year.
Yeah, that's very true too, Councilman Brightman. We could do that. We could, because maintenance is included in that price for a year, right?
Correct.
Andrew, isn't that what
That is correct.
Yeah, so I guess we could do it, and if you look into it and we decide it's not worth it, then it's not worth it.
Right,
Yeah,
Randy,
I'm okay with that.
Randy Curran has had his hand up patiently for a while, and he's muted, so I'm going to unmute him and then acknowledge his hand. Randy Curran.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You've got two separate pieces of equipment here. it seems like you're all in agreement regarding the copy machine. Can't you proceed with the copy machine and defer on the folder and stuffer until the next meeting? I mean, it's not one contract from the way I read the bid. I mean, they're two separate items.
Right. I think after the conversation with Councilman Brightman, I think he's correct. I think, because, he reminded me that there is that year in there that is included in the purchase price. So that gives us plenty of time to come up with the maintenance agreement going forward.
I mean, basically, yeah, it's just an insurance policy. It's like an extended warranty on a car or anything. And you're hedging your bet versus future expenses.
Right.
So that was just my only thought, that if everybody's in agreement regarding the copier, there's no need to delay that, it seemed like.
I think everybody was in agreement with the copier and the stuffer. The only question was the maintenance agreement. But I think we're good. If you guys want to go back and do a roll call vote on the office equipment, we can certainly do that.
I make a motion to accept it, Brightman.
I'll second that, Weller.
That is, just for clarification, Councilman Brightman, that is the leasing of the copier and the purchase of the stuffer.
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Nothing? Hearing, seeing none. Roll call, please, Tony.
Varner,
Yes.
Schnorr,
Yes.
Brightman,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Weller,
Yes.
Your Honor, if I could please, I wanted to report this message from Mark in the chat room. Mark Hilgendorf, he said, wanted to say thank you to the mayor for his kind words. Thinks 4th Avenue over here is having connection issues because he's been having connection issues trying to get in too. And Councilman Bowman's right up the street there. They may be having some internet trouble down that way. So it may not just be Councilman Bowman. We may be having some citywide issue there. Okay, so.
Mine's been running pretty slow all day too.
Are we back to number 3 on new business then?
Yes, we are. Sorry about that,
Okay,
Andrew.
that's
Yes.
okay, Your Honor. I appreciate everybody going back to figure that out. Thank you very much. So up on your screen now is the job description for the Public Works Director. This is the one we have on file. This yellow area up here is something we would consider adding to, and one thing that's missing from there is also having a CDL or being able to obtain one. So what we're looking for is the ability to obtain a grade 2 treatment and distribution in water, or if they have one, that would be preferred. The issue that you have with that, if they don't have one when you bring them in, is it takes 3 years of working in a system before you can get to the grade 2 on distribution and treatment. So if you bring in somebody without those licenses, it's going to take them at least 3 years. The same thing with the CDL. We usually give 6 months to get the CDL. But this is, you all received this. This is the job description with the addition of the CDL and the grade 2. I think this would be the opportunity for council to consider if it wanted to make any changes to the job description before we made that available to the public. Was there any input from council on the job description at all?
Varner has no problem with it.
I'm not hearing much from anybody.
Looks pretty straightforward.
Yeah. they did a nice job with these in 2015 when they created all these job descriptions for everything. That was some pretty good work. So the next step then would be the advertisement for this position. And I kind of pulled an advertisement from another city who was advertising on the ICMA website. So that's where the bulk of the center section comes in. The qualifications comes from our Public Works job description down here. Where'd it go? Entry requirements with the added portions of the CDL and the grade 2 preferred. The salary, I put it $75,000 just to put a number in there. It's up to council to decide what you would want for that position. I would state to council that that's about the going rate. There's a couple of cities that have done polls. Tipton is one of them. And I can't remember the other name. Tony, do you remember the name of the other city?
I
Just start with an
don't
E.
offhand.
Esterville.
Yes,
The one I
yes,
gave you.
yeah, it was Esterville. So between those two, the average salary for a public works director was $75,000, and it was all smaller cities, 5,500 and below, in that area. So that would be a competitive wage, and I would expect if someone came in with meeting the minimum qualifications, that's what that wage would be. I'm getting some feedback from someone. Or, if they had more than enough qualifications, we might offer more, but, that would be up to council to make the final offer to a position in whichever way they wanted to create the offer, depending on who the candidates are. So I'm here seeking permission from council to advertise for the position. If council finds that the salary of $75,000 is acceptable, we can go with that. Or if they wanted to change that, what's your pleasure?
I'm good with 75.
Yeah, I'm good with 75. Varner's good with 75.
Does somebody have a hand raised, Andrew?
Dave Bowman raised his hand. Yes, sir, Councilman Bowman.
I'm hoping everybody can hear me. I'm good with the 75, and I'm also good with the job description that the amendments you suggested.
Great, we got all that. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
If there is no further comment, I would entertain a motion to authorize the city administrator to go ahead and conduct the search.
Weller, I'll make that motion.
Varner will second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please, Tony.
Bowman,
Yes.
Brightman,
Yes.
Weller,
Yes.
Schnorr,
Yes.
Varner,
Yes.
Great, thank you, council. I would just say that this search will go on the way we've done other department heads. We'll throw it out there and get what we get and try and whittle it down. We'll form a small committee to do some final interviews when we get down to a point. And I think we've done this successfully a couple of times, hiring department heads. And it's very participatory. It's not an individual. And hopefully we get some really good input. And we will be seeking input on questions that council members might want to have asked during the interview process. If you have anything specific, but we'll be getting that information out to you soon. We'll probably release that ad next week. Uh-oh.
I got kicked out. It says poor connection or firewall.
The mayor's been kicked off of the thing, so we're gonna allow him to just go ahead and join in my conversation. So there must be some internet.
Well, maybe it's weather. I don't know.
Internet buggers out there today. So with that, we have those things approved. And Your Honor, we're here on the agenda.
Yep.
End of new business.
Yep, we are done with business, so we will go to communications. Communications from the city attorney. John and Randy have anything? Or Braden, I didn't know if he was here.
I did not see Braden.
This is John. I have nothing, Your Honor.
Here it is.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is Randy. I have nothing, Your Honor, either.
Oh, you have a.
Hang on, just once. I had my headphones in and the mayor couldn't hear that, but those were negative responses from Randy and John.
Okay,
Your Honor.
perfect, thank you. Then communications from city administrator, go ahead, Andrew.
Sure, Your Honor. I have received the Kramer survey for the sale of property, and we'll be waiting for some information from the legal team on their expenses for that, and hopefully that'll be recorded, and I have that scheduled to have we'll have the resolution for the public hearing to vacate the property and to sell the property, and that will happen in February. I received another request for the purchase of property, purchase of right-of-way on 6th Avenue. That survey magically showed up rather quickly, and that was part of the consent agenda, was to establish a public hearing for the next meeting for that sale of interest in real estate. We'll have the vacate of right-of-way at that next meeting as well, and then we'll be able to zip those. Both of those sales will happen at the same meeting. I have it written on my dry erase board back here. And that is all I have.
All righty, thank you. Next, communications from the mayor. I don't currently have anything at this time. I would again like to wish Mark Hilgendorf well and thank him for all of his years of service. Going forward, communications from council members. Councilman Brightman.
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Weller.
Yeah, I just want to piggyback off what you said. I want to thank Mark for all his years of service and wish him well in his future endeavors.
Thank you. Councilman Schnorr.
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Councilman Varner.
Just to repeat what everybody else said, I wish Mark well in his future endeavors also.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Councilman Bowman.
Councilman Bowman has vacated the meeting. He's trying to come down to City Hall.
Oh, okay.
His internet, no good.
Never mind, Councilman Bowman. All right, moving along then to communications from department heads. Tony, do you have anything?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mark, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have nothing, Your Honor. I want to thank you guys for your well wishes, but I have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you hear me?
Judy?
Yeah, we heard you, Mark. Thank you.
Nothing from public safety.
Nothing from Chief Reed either? Okay, thank you. Public comments.
Anyone from the public wishing to speak, you should raise your hand, or I don't think I have anybody by phone. Nate Campy has his hand raised. Nate Campy, welcome. How are you?
Good, how are you? I just want to thank Mark and congratulate him on his retirement.
Great.
Thanks, Nate.
Thank you, Nate.
That's it. Yeah.
That's it.
All right, council members' request for placement of matters on future agendas. Anything right now that needs to go on a future agenda that you can think of?
I hear nothing.
If not, we will then
I'm gonna try and get the mayor rebooted.
We will take a couple of minutes here, and before
I'll-
we go into the work session,
I'll leave
let's
the
take
meeting.
5.
Yep, I'll leave the meeting up here, and you'll all be able to stay in. We'll be back in 5 minutes. Legal, we don't need you here for the budget stuff. You guys can go. You're all right. You're still budgeted for next year.
If you're nice.
Yeah, penny for each of you.
All right, everybody, I'm gonna head out. Have a good evening.
Good night, Dan.
Oh, it does have me. It didn't last time, though. Tell Councilman Bowman he can come in here if he likes.
We just finished the regular portion. It was just
Technology, it's a great way it works.
No, you're okay though. We're getting ready to do the budget stuff. Okay. Okay. Oh.
You ready, Andrew? We ready to roll?
There's that, and this, and pencil. Okay. Yes, Your Honor, I'm ready to roll. So we have Councilman Bowman sitting at the clerk's desk. He's come in for better internet. So we're ready to go, Your Honor? You're muted.
Yeah, just don't get too excited about the internet here, because I just got kicked off too, so.
Yeah. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna cover here today, I don't have a presentation for this, but Anna, are you in here still, or did you get booted out? No, she left the call. We'll cover there isn't much to cover in the library. They're asking for a couple $1,000s more for a couple of line items that weren't out of line. Let me get to those real quick. I didn't send them to you because they were not significant. There'll be more of a transfer for library this year just because you have the increased cost in wages that go up 2.5%. Just so council members are aware, we generally give everybody the same increase. Even the part-timers, they get the same kind of increase that the full-time folks do. And I'll get to the library section here in a second. Community center. It's something when you got 38 pages of stuff. Here we are. So the changes in the library line items were instead of $5,000 in subscription databases, they upped that to $6,000. There's an additional subscription that they're getting, and then miscellaneous from $4,000 to $5,000, and that was really for I think for stuff around the property. It wasn't to me. It wasn't that significant of a change. The one difference that you'll notice in the transfers out and transfers in when I show them to you in the final is that you don't see the revenue being brought in for ebooks. So they have an additional $5,000 expense for ebooks, but they have $5,000 coming in that you don't see on the expense report. So even though it looks like they're spending more, it's really the same overall because there is a revenue that you don't see, but it does come in. So that was one of the hang-ups in getting our financial report done, because the auditor looked at that. It's $5,000 that comes from the county library. She called it an intergovernmental transfer, and I wasn't calling it an intergovernmental transfer, and we got hooked up on that. So, but they do have that money coming in. That is a wash. So overall, their change in budget is $2,000, $1,000 each on those two line items, and their wages go from $79,674 to $81,666. Their group insurance goes up a little bit. The one thing I'll tell you about that happens in every department is all of our property insurance. Chris Vens told us to count on that going up 15%. All the insurance companies took a pretty good hit, and they plan on, from the derecho, so they plan on passing that along to us. So yay. So anyway, from the library standpoint, that's it. I'm sure we'll get Anna in here at the next meeting. Hopefully she'll have a better connection, and we'll get all that straightened out. She'll be able to explain a little bit better those extra costs. But to me, they weren't that significant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a presentation on some of the other minor expense areas that you may or may not be familiar with. And I didn't fancy up the slideshow. They're just straightforward. So this is your 2022 budget for various expenditures. This cover the first part of it, which is adding a building inspector / nuisance abatement person. I know that's kind of a big deal. Changes to economic development, what we're asking for that. Just covering animal control, community center, the Historical Society, YWCA for domestic violence, and low to moderate income fund. We'll cover all of those hopefully pretty quickly. Building inspector. This position, the average wage is about $22 per hour, requires certification as an inspector or the ability to obtain certification. And that's just not being a home inspector, that's actually being a certified building inspector. Typically, people have a background in construction when they go and obtain their license. And there's a professional organization where you can obtain your license, and you take classes and you have to test to pass them. We would expect a person who did not have that license to test and obtain that license eventually. But they need to have a background in construction, although they're not just doing building inspection. What we're really looking for is the addition of actually inspecting work that it's brought up to, or that it meets a certain standard. Our current code, again, we've discussed this before, paints with a pretty broad brush overall. We'd be looking to maybe get a little more specific, but we would rely on this new position to investigate that, find out where our deficiencies are, and bring those to council to figure out how we wanted to handle that. But even still, before I got here, we weren't even clearing permits. People would take out a fence permit, and give the permit, and off they go, and we didn't even go check to make sure that they were done correctly or done to any standard or even on the line where they said they were going to be. So we've changed that behavior. And I think creating this position and clearing permits on a more specific level to whatever the work being done meeting a certain code is going to be a benefit. And they're also going to be taking a lot of the nuisance abatement portions off of my desk and putting it onto theirs so they can go around town and identify these nuisance areas. The other aspect of that is the increased scope of building permits. We probably don't do enough in issuing building permits. And again, Chief Reed shared his story of changing some plumbing work that we didn't require permits for, and increased his property value, but that was never recorded from us to the assessor's office to reassess his property for these corrections or improvements to his property. So the taxes were never required to be paid for that, and that's lost revenue for us as a city. And the other aspect of that too is if you have someone certified to inspect and approve electrical work. Right now, we wait for the state guy to show up, and it may take a week or two before that can be taken care of. If we have someone certified on staff to be able to clear that permit, you can issue occupancy or let them move forward right away. So it's an additional convenience for whoever's doing the work here in town. They would handle all permits and all general nuisance infractions. So not traffic enforcement or anything like that, but just general property nuisances is what we're looking at. The additional expenses would be handled through City Hall. It'd be the computer and office supplies. We would just absorb that because that office would be here. The City Hall design does have an office space with a window for building inspector, and where they would get all of their permits and then pay at the building clerk's window. Would require either a vehicle stipend or use of a city vehicle. And we just tossed this idea last week when Chief Reed was in here talking about his car, the spare car that they're going to have. If we end up not using it for anything, that certainly could be a vehicle that a building inspector and nuisance abatement person would use. And the estimated cost is about $60,840, give or take. We're ballparking health insurance at $10,000. You do the IPERS and FICA and all that stuff, and the wage. There'll be some other costs, but again, we're just going to try and absorb that in the City Hall expenses for now. Did anybody have any questions about this? I can't see hands raised, so someone gonna have to call it out.
This is Bowman. Real quick, my question is this: it sounds like we will also require an ordinance change for the additional building permits. You would want to sell to people for whatever, right? If I understood what you said correctly, I'm not expressing myself well, but but it sounds like we make some changes to make sure we require additional permits for stuff for which we did not require permits in the past. Is that correct?
We would. We've done some corrections to that with the roofing and siding and things of those nature. Once we have that person in place, we would have them start analyzing all the areas and where other improvements to the property might require a permit, and plumbing being one of them. Nobody needs to take out a permit for replacing your plumbing, but if you're adding plumbing, anywhere else you typically need to get a permit. So, those kinds of things might be things that the council would address, and those certainly would be. I think those are done by resolution, Councilman. So adding those can be done that way, but it might also require some addressing of the code. But I think you're going to just be looking at filling this position and having them analyze where we're at and where we need to go. The benefit would be is if we get someone with experience in other cities, where they can bring that experience in and say, well, this is where we're deficient, this is where we're doing well, and let's address the deficiencies. That makes sense.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
If I have no further questions about that, I'm going to move on to the next slide.
So you say like plumbing, more or less, if it's an addition, not in repair, so somebody wouldn't have to get a permit if their water heater went bad or something like that?
No, not currently, although a lot of cities do require you, if you replace your water heater, you know, we do have state codes that you have to follow for a water heater, as in, like, you know, you can't have flex so close to the water heater, and, you know, those kinds of things should be looked at, because when you're replacing a water heater, if it's not done right, that thing can blow up through the roof. And that becomes a safety thing. But again, those are all things that we would need to look at. The International Building Code has a complete list of things that they suggest that you have permits for in the back end of the book. I don't think we would be using all of that, but those would be things that, you know, the person filling this position, I would think, would present those and say, here is what the recommendations are. Well, here's a complete list. Here's what our recommendations are, what staff recommendations are, and leave it to council to make the determination on what would happen with that. Does that answer your question, sir?
Yes.
Great. Anybody else?
Andrew, can I add?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Chief.
You know, one other thing that kind of came up today, and as you know, what came from the city of Clinton that this position could help address is currently we have no mechanism in place for rental property inspection or any type of leverage at all with folks that have rental properties as far as keeping them in, other than the fire code, but meeting other types of guidelines, like, you know, keeping them in good working order and maintaining them as, you know, good living space and having the ability for entry on those things. And we had an issue at an apartment complex just today to do, and there's some things that we can currently handle from the fire side, and there's many things that we currently have no way to address them. And I think the creation of this position would assist us with rental. I think that should be a program that we should be looking at implementing, is rental property inspections to make sure that the rental properties, which we have numerous rental properties, not only apartment complexes, but homes, that they're meeting the standards of what a rental property should, and make sure those landlords are held accountable so that we don't have some substandard rental properties.
Yeah, thank you very much, Chief. Anybody else have any input?
Yeah, I think that with the rental property, that also helps keep your tenants in check a little bit too. I know I have rental property in Clinton and I have it in Camanche. The only place I have any inspections that happen is in Clinton.
Great. Well, sounds like whoever gets this job is going to have a plate full of work. Okay, we'll move on. The next item is economic development. Our current budget sits at $11,000, seeking an increase to $17,000. I've spoken with some of you about this concept of creating a commercial TIF district along Washington Boulevard, and that takes legal fees to make that happen. I can do a lot of the heavy lifting on the creation and the development and having council help me through what they want to see in a TIF district, but the idea here is not the way we use TIF for housing. This is commercial TIF, which is the actual foundation of TIF as it started. The housing thing is a different version of it that came later. But this allows you to, you create the boundaries of the TIF, you have a project that comes in, and when that project comes in and it's a suitable project to launch the TIF, then you start the TIF there, goes for 20 years, and then you sunset it at 20 years. For another 20 years, you reset it so that everybody gets to participate in the new level of zero, which is the full amount, and then any increases that happen for the next 20 years, that comes into the TIF. And what you use that money for, you use it two ways. One, you can use it for projects within the TIF to provide low-interest loans or facade improvement programs or paved parking lots or add bike paths or things of that nature, things that you want to see within the TIF. Infrastructure improvements you can use that for. And the bigger thing is if you have a project coming in, and you have a development agreement, you can actually borrow against that development agreement and leverage that revenue coming in with low interest rates to turn around and do something like we're at the 10-year part of our capital improvement plan, we have repairs to Washington Boulevard that we're going to borrow against the general fund for. Well, if that's in the TIF and we get to 10 years and we need to do that project, you can borrow against the TIF to fix that road instead of borrowing against the general fund levy. So it's very beneficial. This is, again, the classic way that TIF is used. And the idea is to go all up and down Washington Boulevard and catch some of the offshoot properties as well, like the grocery store and like Carlson's and areas that, are commercially developable that just come off the edges of Washington Boulevard. So I'm asking for that authority. Again, if we can't get this launched off the ground, it's just money we're not going to spend. But my guess is it's probably going to cost about $6,000 in legal fees to go through all the public hearings and publications and establishments of the TIF district. That's typically about what it costs. The current uses for TIF are the Tuition Assistance Program, also known as Peanut Butter. Our money for CRDC comes from that, and chamber advertising and other minor economic development items come out of this fund. So if there's no questions about that, I'll move on. Anybody have any questions about the TIF idea?
No, but I would like to go back and address for the council, you were talking about using that TIF to borrow against to do repairs on Washington Boulevard, and the reasoning for that, and that just keeps, that doesn't go against our debt capacity. Then.
Correct.
It gives us more flexibility is what it does. We can still borrow more money against our debt capacity should we so need to do that. So.
That is correct, but when you TIF, you're borrowing against a larger volume of money because it's a portion of the school's money. It's the county's money that they would normally get for the increased value of things that go on there, right? They don't realize that money until the TIF is totally done, but they keep that base of where it's at. So you freeze it at zero. They keep that money coming in, but any increases that happen after that, that money comes into the TIF. So it's a much larger tax base that you get in the TIF revenue. So you can borrow even more than you normally would against your tax revenue because against your property tax levy because it's the combination of three taxing bodies of revenue coming in. And that'll make sense too when you get to the LMI portion. You'll see there's a lot more money coming in than you think. And this is an avenue by which we can do that to promote economic development along Washington Boulevard. And that really is the goal there, is to create downtown Camanche. And this goes hand in hand with the bike path, with the trail plan. It'll go along with the Parks Master Plan when we get that because Central Park is right there. And it'll really help, I think, spur economic development along that area where we have either bare land or properties that may be for sale or are becoming vacant or soon to become vacant, and we want to reimagine what it is, and we can have some influence over that. We can have some part in that to make that development happen in a more positive way for the city. It's just a matter of vision. Anybody else have any questions about that? Again, you'll have to ask because I can't see your hands. I'm running blind.
I see no hand, Andrew.
Okay, great. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. The next, animal control. Current budget expense is $3,500. Additional kennel has greatly reduced our costs. We put the dogs that we catch in doggy jail for 5 days rather than send them right at the Humane Society because the Humane Society holds them for 4 days. We got to pay the rent for 4 days. Now, if they stay down here in doggy jail for 4 days, we don't have to pay that rent. And we take care of the dog, and generally the guys down at Public Works, for the most part, like the dogs. That one husky tore that joint up pretty good. But overall, it's been a very successful program in reducing the costs. The revenues are approximately $2,800. We continue to collaborate with the Clinton Humane Society, So when a dog reaches 5 days, then we take it up there. Cats, we just take directly up there. We're seeking direction on license fees. Currently, the requirement is $3 for an animal that's fixed and $6 for an animal that's unfixed. I can't tell you when the last time that was changed, but our recommendation would be to address those fees in the coming year. My personal opinion is if you made it 5 and 10, I don't think anybody would bat an eye.
I agree.
If there's nothing else about animal control, we'll move on. The community center, $24,285 is budgeted. That includes salaries, utilities, and cleaning supplies, but they all hinge on the meal site. Milestones has yet to inform us of their intent for next year with COVID. They haven't done anything since March, and they haven't done anything with a meal site anywhere. I do know that they are home delivering meals. And based on what happened towards the end, before COVID happened, there were a number of meetings that tried to involve getting more people to visit the meal site and what could draw people there. And Milestones had some serious concerns about continuing the program here in Camanche because so few people were attending, and we were having a lot of waste here. And the employee that we had there, we have reutilized Bree. We've used her down at the library. We're retraining her over at the cemetery because Jim James is going to retire, I think, here next year. So it looks like Bree's going to be able to take that over. She seems to be enjoying the work, so that's great. We've been able to keep her gainfully employed through the pandemic. I'm not extremely confident that Milestones is going to return for on-site meal serving for seniors, but we'll see. We're going to budget for it, and if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. We're budgeting for the return. That's the bottom line.
So, Andrew, this is Dave.
Yes.
So, post-pandemic, or when the community center gets used again, would we have to go hire another employee, since it sounds like their current employee is going to have a new job?
I don't think so, just because the number of hours that they can do in both locations is probably similar. We'll be okay.
All right. Thank you.
It probably depends, Councilman, on whether or not Milestones comes back, if the meal site comes back, and if it does, then how big it's going to be or what it's going to be like, I guess. Go ahead, sorry, Andrew.
Yes,
Andrew,
sir.
Is there any way that could be a pickup type deal? Like call in and call ahead and make your... I'm not sure how that works, but...
Councilman, they currently have those meals delivered to their home. Milestones comes up and delivers to the home.
Oh, okay.
Councilman Brightman, do you mean going forward, like when they come back, rather than have them eat there? Is that what your thought was?
Yeah.
I hear you. I think the problem with us is there had been such little participation going into COVID that they were already toying with cutting us off anyway, you know? So
That is correct, Your Honor. We were averaging 7 to 11 people that are attending regularly. They would like that number to be closer to 20. And again, they were experiencing a lot of waste up here. There was a lot of food getting tossed because it was never really clear as to how many people were going to show up each day, and you got to plan it out 2 or 3 days in advance. So Milestones was not happy with the results that they were getting out of the participation. It was much more cost effective for them to have people order the meals, have them prepared, and deliver them up here. I honestly don't imagine post-pandemic the situation coming where Milestones may go back to serving on sites, but I don't know that we're going to have enough participation to justify redoing it for them.
Well, but here's the thing.
We probably won't meet Milestones requirements to be able to continue that service, having them provide that service. The important part about the whole thing, and Trevor, you're familiar with this, it's the
Yeah.
socialization aspect of it that's really important. So we'd really
Yeah.
like to be able to continue this program. That's why I am continuing to budget for it. You know, God willing, we can do it, but I just, you know, it's really tough to call.
And I think too, though, to Councilman Brightman's point, maybe if they do bring it back, you know, they come up here to communities anyway. Maybe they do it where they just, I mean, they're already dropping off individual meals. Maybe they make the individual meals and drop them off rather than bringing pans full of food. I can understand how they're getting waste in a sense. However, they were also supposed to know a head count of who's eating, how many are eating that day. So if they're wasting food, they're sending too much, or, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Well,
We'll see what happens.
I guess my concern is,
okay, go.
I guess my concern is we are we losing money on the community center by not having anything rented out? I mean, what's it costing us per month to pay for utilities, eat? That's my concern. You know, at what point do we, yeah, I guess get real nervous.
So, well, it's not a huge expense, and right now our expenses at the community center are minimal because we're not renting it out at all. We're losing less money than we were before because we don't have the cleaning services line item through the roof, and our utilities are much lower. We're less than half of what is budgeted for the year for utilities because we've had such little use overall. So that's an improvement for us. So I'm not as worried about loss. The losses. We're still going to lose money on the community center, but a lot of that has to do with the fact that we can't even rent it out. We have no income coming into the community center because of COVID.
That's my point.
Yeah, it'll be easier to gauge once the things start to ease up and people can use the community center again. I could say that we have a lot of reservations for May and June. People are hopeful, I think, that this will all lift and we'll have everything back open. So, you know, we can only see what the future holds on that. It's really tough to gauge where we're at, though, when we can't open the facility because of the virus.
Yeah, because I mean, I can remember, you know, not too long ago, we increased the rental fees because of this reason. And now, I mean, I understand we're keeping down low, whatever, utilities are cheap, but still, it's money out of the pocket that we're not getting anything out of at this point.
Well,
Answer Councilman, pay about $47 a month for electric for that facility.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think too, that wasn't one of the reasons that we really raised the rates was to try to keep some of the riffraff out too. I mean, we thought we were just grossly undercharging as well. I think as far as that goes, Councilman Brightman, as far as the community center, it's tough to do given the situation with COVID. It really is. I mean, hopefully we can, you know, get through this and get that thing open back up and start renting the darn thing again, for sure. I agree. I share your concerns. It's a great piece of property that's sitting there doing nothing for us right now.
And I can add too, Your Honor, that you know, the utilities last year were much higher on that space because the meal site was there and they were using the space every day, heating and air conditioning. And we don't, Milestones pays the city for the salary for that person, but they don't pay the utilities or anything else. That just comes out of our pocket, so we're expected to make up that money by rentals. And it's still expensive to have that operation every day, but a worthwhile operation for the seniors if you have that opportunity for them to gather and you know, we could do a daily head count and make sure people are still doing well. And so, you know, that's a small investment that way, in my opinion. But I am hopeful too that if this does come back, that the chief reads program with the seniors may help encourage more people to come attend that. But again, we're all just kind of waiting with bated breath to see what happens with milestones and COVID and what happens moving forward. Okay. No other questions about that?
I'm not seeing any.
Okay, I will move on. Historical Society previously budgeted $1,500 for their electric bills. You have two options here. City take over the electric bill and install a temperature control system, and we control the temperature, or continue to provide a $1,500 stipend for the historical board to pay the bill. I prefer option 2. There any other comment or direction?
What are these bills averaging?
Well, you can imagine it's kind of like your house. I don't know that the stipend is enough. Councilman Varner, can you provide some guidance on that?
He's got his hand raised. Yeah, did I tell you that?
No.
Yes, basically what, they are very, very frugal with the heat and the air conditioning in there when there's nobody in the building. So basically, they only have to increase the heating once a month, because they still are holding in-person meetings, keeping social distancing and masks. They're very, very frugal with all that. For lack of a better term, the 1,500 would be my recommendation stipend. Because there are times in there where they try and go in and work on the building and get things set aside and that sort of thing. I would say, I'm just trying to think, for gas and electric, I think maybe a little over 100 a month for gas and electric, maybe more during the winter. But they're, like I said, they're very frugal. They keep the temperature down during the winter and up during the summer.
So you're saying that 1,500 would be more beneficial to them if we just took it over?
Yeah. Right. The reason I say that is because, of course, it's going to vary just like your house. During the wintertime, your gas bill is higher. But during the summertime, your electric's higher. And they can go ahead and pay whatever happens to be higher for that time. It just would be beneficial for them to do that.
It's much easier from our standpoint to just put that money there, and hey, if they only spend $1,350 on gas and electric, then the historical board has an extra $150 that they can use for what they need to use it for. That's just my opinion. They're just
they're extremely frugal with the money that they spend. That's why they don't even have a telephone in the building. Of course, everybody has cell phones, but there's not even a telephone in the building.
Didn't we address that issue about the telephone once before?
Yeah, but nothing's really been done about it, and they really haven't pushed the issue, because like I said, everybody's got cells, but I don't know, they really haven't pushed the issue. They're just glad to have help in paying the electric and the gas.
For sure. Okay, well, not hearing any other direction. We're going to continue on with the $1,500 stipend. And
hey, you guys, just so you know, before you go anywhere else, when you raise your hand in here, I cannot unraise your hand. So if you have raised your hand and answered your question, or had your question answered, if you would kindly unraise your hand. Thank
for
you.
For the next presentation, I'll make you a moderator so I don't bump out of this. Okay, YWCA domestic violence donation. That's always been $1,375. We recommend continuing this contribution. I think you guys got in your packet a nice thank you note. And that is a helpful program. I've helped people into that program myself. So it's active and beneficial. They no longer run the the house where they can bring people in. So this kind of money goes, I can tell you firsthand, it pulls people out of situations and hides them in hotels until they can get some a better housing situation, and they help get those people into better housing situations and out of the bad situations that they're in. And they do fantastic work. LMI funding. This is interesting now. LMI stands for low to moderate income. This fund is derived from residential TIF, and it's a 60-40 split, although the cross is 62-38, but we'll just call it 60-40 for the sake of argument. Current balance is actually $55,707. So the 40% is what comes into us. Projected next year addition of $55,167, and that will continue to grow because that does not count yet the Eden's 4th edition, which is a new TIF, which will start bringing in revenue the year after. You're going to start seeing, and if the cross subdivision does what it's going to do in phase 2, and that grows, you're going to start seeing $100,000 a year coming into LMI. And that's money that can go out. So how do you appropriate that out? Well, there's two ways you can do it. You can do a grant, or you can do a low interest loan. People have to qualify under the federal guidelines for low to moderate income based on their household income and how many people live in their household. I have sent the mayor some copies of information I received from a colleague of mine, Mark Jackson at Story City, and they've been doing this program for years, and it's been very beneficial to them. They loan out up to $8,000 interest-free to people who qualify for LMI, and that money, when they pay it back, you can do it one of two ways. You can either put it back into the LMI and create it as a revolving loan fund, or you can bring that money back into the general fund and just have that money as revenue coming in. There's no requirement to keep the LMI fund going perpetually. You can if you want to. My suggestion, though, is by the time you're all done with these, at least the 3 TIFs for residential that you have on the books now, you're going to end up trying to manage $500,000 in loans every year. And that is a lot of work when you're not charging interest.
May I add something before you go any further?
Sure.
This is up to us how we spend this low to moderate income money, but it's got to be on low to moderate income. They have to qualify. So let's make that clear. But it doesn't have to be loans. It could be just grants. We could just give money out. I mean, so I just want everybody to be aware that we have options.
There are many options, yes. So really what I'm just looking for is the ability to budget $45,000 out of what is expected to be $110,000 by the end of next fiscal year. It'll probably be pretty close to that in November. Is the ability to start working now on the program to release it July 1 and be able to start taking in applications for those requests and have a committee formed to review the applications. And because you may get more coming in than you have available, and you just prioritize them, I guess, by who was first, the order in which they were received.
Or need.
Yeah, or need. It would be up to that committee to figure out. But again, those LMI payments do not have to go back into the LMI. They can just come back into the general fund. Again, because there's no requirement to keep LMI as a perpetual thing going on forever.
Andrew, Councilman Bowman has his hand raised.
Yes, Councilman Bowman, go ahead.
All right, thank you, Your Honor. My question is very simply this: what kind of demand do we have for the program today? What does it look like?
We don't know. You mean from the public? How many low to moderate income families do we have? Is that where you're at?
Right, people who would want to take advantage of this opportunity.
I think we have plenty of people who would qualify for sure. To Andrew's point earlier, he was talking about prioritizing how you want this money to be paid out. I think you're going to have to do that. I think there are enough people that $45,000 a year is we're probably going to find that we can use more.
Okay.
Would be my guess. I know that we went through this. I want to say it was about 10 years ago, Councilman, that we were looking at doing an LMI, or what were we doing, Paul? Were we trying to get a grant for low to moderate income or something? But we found that there are certain areas where we have several people who qualify, and then other areas, and you can use your imagination about town to figure out who wouldn't qualify, but
So,
mostly on the lower side of town.
Was that a CDBG grant for Washington Boulevard?
It might have been a block grant. Yeah, it might have been. It might very well have been. I can't remember what
Yeah.
it was.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the city would not have met the requirements for that CDBG grant. CDBG stands for Community Development Block Grant. And along those connection areas, you have to have so many people qualifying within a certain
within the
income
region,
level.
right.
And as the mayor points out, there's certain regions within the city who offset that. So this becomes a more targeted opportunity for the city to loan out money at low interest rates to be able to help people out. So I'm just, again, I'll be throwing a $45,000 maximum expenditure out, but that's already cash on hand or money that's coming in to be able to spend. So be aware of that. That'll be coming soon. That's all I have for the additional expenditures. I'd like to cover sewer next, and the sewer becomes a big one. If I can get my, and it's important to do the sewer first. Once you do the sewer, the water becomes easy. I shouldn't have quit PowerPoint. Okay, sewer. Share. So this looks much like, oh wait, I need to make the mayor a moderator. Your Honor, you should now be you're a moderator.
Yep.
There you go. Okay.
It came up, yep.
All right. So from the beginning, Camanche Sewer Budget Proposal 2022. I want you to understand this part first. This comes from the Iowa League of Cities. City Utility Fund and City Enterprise Fund. Any governing body of a city utility, combined utility system, city enterprise, or combined city enterprise which has a surplus in its fund may transfer such surpluses to any other city fund excepting the emergency fund by resolution of the appropriate governing body. For purposes of this sub-rule, a surplus may exist only after all required transfers have been made to any restricted accounts in accordance with the terms, blah, 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 revenue bonds. Really what this is saying is, this is news to me, you have excess money in your water fund, you could just transfer it over to the sewer fund. You don't have to do intergovernmental loan agreements. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Just transfer it over. As long as you're not zeroing it out and you've paid all of your debts and everything. That's what that's saying. And some more legal stuff about Iowa chapter code, what says you can do that. So with that in mind, let's look here. The revenue for the sewer, and you guys should have these sheets. It's okay if you don't follow along. The revenue line of money coming in is $430,000. Total revenue with all the other items coming in, $572,000. Your end balance, based on your expenses, is minus $55,035. Now remember, we lowered the debt service money coming in that was offsetting, and now the debt service will have enough money coming in to appropriately accommodate the debt on hand. If you haven't caught on to what I'm getting at, my recommendation is going to be to eliminate, to just wipe clean, forgive that loan of $125,000 from water to sewer, because you can legally and it's fine. And it makes no point to continue to hammer the sewer fund when the water fund continues to grow. When we get there, you'll see that. So if you adjust the user rate fee $1.80 per quarter, that puts your revenue coming in at $485,000. Your end balance becomes a positive $465. So in some way, we're recommending to adjust the user fee at least $1.80 The base rate is $25.26 per quarter. We're asking it to be adjusted $1.80. And what you'll see in the other end is that the water revenues, even with some additional expenses to it, and the loss of projected income from this loan repayment, is still coming out $47,000 ahead. So we would look at lowering the water user fee, the same dollar amount. Sewer fund now balances, water fund still has positive growth, and that still assumes a couple of other things over in the water fund. You'll see that when we get there. The alternate is to lower user rate and create a capital fund fee. One of the reasons that's driving this increase, and it's going to continue to drive this increase, is our obligation to pay into the capital fund up at the sewer treatment facility in Clinton. That's eventually going to end at $75,000. Right now, we're moving it to $56,000. It's one of the reasons why, even with these changes, we're still losing money, because those expenses will continue to go up. And we knew that going into it when we signed that agreement. It was part of the 28E. We were obligated to make that agreement, make those payments in. I think the mayor and I, in our due diligence, maybe need to have a meeting with the city administrator and the mayor of Clinton to make sure that we're tracking all the inputs from the other communities involved, and everybody's paying their fair share, and we'll get on that. But we trust our friends up there.
What did you say? You were, shoot. I had something I was going to say, now I can't remember.
Okay, that's all right. You'll get it back. Again, you could lower both user rates and create a capital fund fee to add on there. I'll suggest this, that adding another fee, even if you lower the user rates, are still going to confuse people, and they'll see that new fee, and people tend to get upset when they see a new fee, regardless of whether or not you tell them you lowered the other fee. It becomes problematic. The simplest way to do it is just address the user fees. Okay, so expenditures in sewer. It's a reduced salary line. Part of that goes to water. What we're looking at is we have one employee who's half water, half sewer. We're expecting that employee to become a full water operator. So we're shifting all of that salary over to water. So that relieves some of the expenditures from sewer. Engineering, we decreased that by $10,000. We generally don't have issues with engineering on sewer. It's much less than it used to be back when we had a treatment facility, and in general, this is not really an issue. The Clinton contract, that line is always $288,000. That doesn't change. But you do have the capital outlay, $56,000 required by the 28E. And we're also looking at the operational cost. So the operational total is $627,000. That's where you're at your loss. We're also going to assume loan forgiveness on the expenditures. We're not putting that $12,000 loan repayment into this $627,000. Transfers, you transfer out for your GO bond, that's for the lift station, that's $112,458 this year. There's 8 years remaining. Ins and sick buyback, insurance and sick buyback, that I decreased that to $9,000. We put way more money into the insurance fund to cover deductible expenses. We put in about $120,000 set aside for that, and we only spent about $29,000 of that last insurance year. So we did really well. So we're gonna, in each department, we're gonna reduce that back a little bit to provide some relief for the departments, and also hopefully reduce the tax levy. There is the new line for the capital improvement plan for the city hall of $15,000. Total transfers is $136,458, and again assumes loan forgiveness. So your solutions: increase the user fee $1.80, or you can decrease the user fee and offset it with a capital improvement fee, the difference plus $180. And the water fund continues to grow even with added expenses. So the rates that were changed in 2016 before I got here far exceeded, I think, what was necessary, but given that we didn't address the sewer issues, the sewer fund issues, it's been very beneficial. And you would, even if the council then had increased that water rate by half of what they did, you still would have had to address the sewer rate much earlier than what we did. So, 6 to 1, half dozen to another. Here we are. Now we can really analyze what's going on and make these corrections without, I think, impacting the user. We should utilize the authority to transfer funds to make sure that fund is healthy, not just the sewer, but also the solid waste. Give it just $10,000 over there isn't going to hurt the water fund at all, and does a better job of keeping the solid waste fund solvent. Your estimated end-of-year water balance is going to be $500,000. Even after we transferred over $125,000 back for the water meters, plus loaned $125,000, you're still going to be estimated to be back up at $500,000 in the water fund in cash by the end of the year. So this is not detrimental to the water fund to do this. So that's
which is a very valid point, and because Andrew, we've been talking, and we know this has been on our radar that we have to look for a new water well here. Look at putting in a new well, and that's going to be, we're going to bond for that, but at least we're going to have, we'll be able to do some of that the engineering work, whatever we need to do with what we have. So,
correct, Your Honor, and we're still on a very positive note with the water fund. So let's utilize those funds and balance everything out and get these other enterprises comfortable. Especially the sewer fund. Does anybody have any other questions about the sewer fund? So hopefully this water fund breakdown will help understand that a little bit more. So here is can you all see this?
Yep.
Okay. So here is the water side. Revenues, water sales is on that 4,300 line, estimated $345,000. Total estimated water revenues on top of the sales is $389,500. You're assuming loan forgiveness to the sewer fund, so you're not going to see that $12,000 revenue stream coming in. Your expenditures, page 1, you have increased to a full water treatment operator. That moves that line up significantly. But that water treatment operator comes totally out of that line, and it also includes moving that wage to an appropriate rate wage for a water treatment operator. That's outside of the line, outside of what the contract with the bargaining unit employees calls for. But I'll tell you this much: that we have solid information that shows water treatment operators make $22 to $23 an hour. And any of our folks who get a grade 2, any of our folks who get a grade 1 license, they get recruited all the time for jobs that pay more. Once you reach that grade 2, you get recruited all the time. Back to Mark retiring, I've reached out to some folks, and Chad McCleary, who teaches the class that our folks have attended at Kirkwood College. He took over for Aledo, Illinois. He had to take over their water affidavit operator position because their grade 2 operator went to a higher paying job. So now they're having to bring him in to take care of their stuff, and they're having a hard time finding someone. It just becomes a matter of what the marketplace demands. We previously had Dale Nissen as a water operator, and he had his licenses, and that was his job title. We'd be looking at replacing that. So that's important to keep in mind when you're looking at this information. Your chemical line, I'm increasing by 5,000 because we seem to be spending a little bit more, and there are some things going on where we're going to start seeing, I think, a lot more usage, and as time progresses, I'll be able to help council understand that, but we anticipate more usage happening for some developments that are going on. And again, the more houses we build, the more usage there is, the more our chemical costs are going to go up. But we should be seeing more revenue from that too. Total for the department, $342,243. The areas for padding are system repairs. You have about a $10,000. It's listed for $20,000. You usually spend about $10,000 on that. Your other expenses line, you could probably find another 10,000 there unless something goes crazy. And capital outlay, if you don't have anything strange going on, like, I mean, we're doing engineering, well, that's an engineering line in there, but even if you had to spend some of your capital outlay on engineering for whatever's going on, there's plenty of room to have padding. So your balance, okay, your current balance as of today was $476,897. This is yesterday I did this slide, so it might be a few dollars more. Projected balance for the end of the year is about $500,000. The proposed transfer of $100,000 of sewer and $10,000 of solid waste. End balance projected for the water fund varies anywhere from $437,000 to $467,000 for the end of fiscal year 2022. So even with just tossing another 100,000 over at the sewer, you're still over $400,000 in your cash water fund at the end of the year.
Andrew, Councilman Bowman has a question.
Yes, Councilman Bowman.
Yeah, just to clarify, that's projected balance end of fiscal year 2021, the second line there?
That is correct. That's an error there. That should be 2021. Sorry.
Yep.
All right, just want to be clear. Thank you.
Yeah, 500,000 is what you'll see in June. Around 500,000 what you'll see on June 30th, 2021. That's a really tough number to peg down because that's right in the middle of that's right towards the end of when bills are due. Bills are usually due the first week of July, so we get a flood of people in the last week to pay their bill, but we get quite a few who pay ahead of time. So, does anybody else have any other questions about this proposal?
I'm not seeing any, Andrew.
Okay, well, I think, Your Honor, if I'm reading this right, if I'm reading the room correctly, the next step will be to move forward with a resolution to forgive the loan for the $125,000 to the sewer. And we'll, for next year, for next fiscal year, we'll budget the transfer of $100,000 from water to sewer. We'll account for that in the budget, and we'll just do a resolution to do that next fiscal year in July. That's the proposal on the table.
Don't we have to approve the budget with that $100,000 transfer in it before we do that, though?
Well, that is correct. You won't do that $100,000 transfer until July 1 or thereafter.
No. But I mean, the resolution has got to be after we've done that, right? So it'll have to be after we certify the budget or after we approve to certify the budget to the state.
The resolution.
It will have to be after. Yeah.
The resolution I'm going to propose is that a resolution to forgive the $125,000 loan. That you can do this fiscal year.
Yeah. But is that going to screw up the way you look at things going forward, means that we're going across two budgets with that? That was my concern. Okay.
No, it makes it a little bit better because you're budgeted to send $12,000 over to the water fund that you're not going to send.
True. Okay.
Okay. So end of year fiscal year 2022. Your proposal is surplus still of $47,257. It assumes max use of engineering, system repairs, capital outlay totaling $72,000. Average is $45,000. So those are your options. You can do nothing. This is for both funds now. You can do nothing and leave it the way it is and have the sewer fund continue to go negative, although it will still end on the plus side of zero. But you're going to lose $55,000 potentially. Again, the sewer fund also has some padding in it as well. But when stuff goes wrong in the sewer system, it's way more expensive than it is in the water system. Those lift station pumps are expensive.
Yeah, but so are the water pumps, and we have been fortunate, and I'm knocking on my head, as you can plainly see, because we haven't had the issues with the water.
Your Honor, I can hear it with my door closed. Okay, so.
Thank you.
You can expect the loss in the sewer and surplus in the water. And you can transfer from water to sewer again next year and continue to do that. Or you can add $222 per quarter to the sewer user fee. That increases revenue of $16,000, covers costs, capital project expenses, reduce the water user fee by $222 per quarter, and that water fund continues to operate in a positive level. And the sewer capital will increase for the next 2 years. You have to keep that in mind. So you'll have to address the user fee again. In discussions with the clerk, we really talked the difference between the user fee and a capital fee, and just this capital expense is just part of the regular operation, and it will stop at some point. And it may even decrease depending on what the flow is from projects that are going on in Clinton. So we may get some benefit from that.
Two things. I want to clarify something. It's never going to stop. It will cap. It'll
cap, but it's always going to be there every year. Correct.
Yes, I just want to make sure we're on the same page. And Councilman Bowman has his hand up.
Yes, Councilman Bowman, go ahead.
Yeah, just a clarification, is that $1.80 or $2.22? Just a little bit ago, we were talking about $1.80 on the sewer fee and $1.80 off the water, and now we're talking $2.22 to the sewer fee and $2.22 off the water. So,
right,
which is correct, or did I misunderstand something?
So your capital fee increases this year, and it will increase again next year. So we're going to overshoot the $1.80 and have that surplus, and then next year have it fall back to earth, and then make the correction for the remaining gap the year after that, and then we'll be done.
So it would be $1.80 in fiscal year 23?
Fiscal year 24. Yes. So if you do 222, you see no change to it next year. Well, fiscal year 2023, you see no change. And in fiscal year 2024, you'll have to balance that out again.
I was confused because we were going to go $1.80 and now we're going 222, and I'm not sure which one we're doing.
The recommendation is going to be 222.
Okay, so what happened to the $1.80?
The $1.80 was just a number to show you the bare minimum dollar amount that you needed to come in to get it to zero.
Right. Oh, okay.
I have a question. Then what happened to the $2.50? Wasn't it $2.49 yesterday when we were looking at that, Andrew?
Well, so yeah, but we were ballparking the user numbers, and as I got more accurate user numbers, that number changed. Okay. Because the actual user numbers increased with the coming up with the numbers in the trailer park and the number of apartments in the apartment complexes and all that stuff. We can't flip a switch and say this is how many users we have, because some of them are on multiple pigtails, if that makes sense. Yeah. So remember what we went through with the debt service fee and Indian Village, because they have 5 users on one, so we made them pay the rate 5 times. But we don't count 5 users over there. We only count 1. They have to count 5. So we have to go back and figure out what that number is. And our system doesn't produce that because we don't charge those individuals individually. Same thing with the trailer park. We charge one rate to the trailer park. We have to know how many trailers are occupied.
Yep.
So, and that number fluctuates. So the correct number, Your Honor, and I understand your point, 222 gets us to where we need to be and gives us enough excess. And again, Councilman Boland, the $1.80 was just that break-even number to say, okay, we're gonna break even. But again, this capital improvement fee increases this year. It will increase again next year. It will increase the year after that, and then it stops. So we're going to overshoot that a little bit, break even a little bit next year, and then distribute the remainder of the increased cost in year 3 of this proposal.
Okay.
And that is provided, of course, that our figures that we are paying to Clinton for our capital outlay portion of the sewer plant are correct, assuming those numbers are correct. I think we need to revisit that, because I was doing a little bit of math, Andrew, and I still think we're paying a little bit more than we should.
That's fine. Well,
so
again,
I'll get with you on that. Yep. Yeah, we can take that up with our friends in Clinton.
That's right. We certainly will. Okay. So your other option is to reduce the sewer rate from 25.26 to 23.26, reduce the water rate, create a capital sewer improvement fee of $375 this fiscal year, and increase the capital improvement fee $375 in 2024. Your final cost for the capital would be $10.42 per quarter. Again, we don't recommend doing this. We just want to throw this option out there if you wanted to. We recommend just addressing it with the user fees to balance everything out. Adding another fee and subtracting from other ones never works in your favor. It's just like, well, lowering the tax levy, but people's property values went up, and you're still the one who raised taxes, even though you lower the levy. You can't win for losing. So I think if we address it through the user rates alone, people won't notice a difference in their bill, and that'll they literally will not notice any cost difference in their bill over the next couple of years, and they won't notice anything until fiscal year 2024, when you have to make an adjustment for that final jump to the capital fee end game for the contract with Clinton. So essentially what we're doing here is we're putting the cost of the capital improvement plan for the sewer into the excess water revenues that we've been getting all along, is essentially what's going. You're shifting money you're shifting revenue from one source to another source to bring it into a different fund to pay a bill that's more, that's costing you more every year. If that makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Now I can see anybody's hand raised if they have any questions.
I think we're good.
Okay. Well, there you go, Your Honor, 8 o'clock.
Yeah, 8:02, I guess.
That was right where I want to be. I appreciate the questions, and again, I think we're being very prudent with these proprietary funds. I won't say that it was less than prudent to raise the water rates the way they did in 2016, but it certainly has worked out in the city's favor overall. So, it's sometimes we stumble into things in the right way.
And I think too, part of that was that there were some larger expenditures. We were reworking water pumps at that point to the tune of about $35,000 a piece. So we knew that was coming up, and that's when those raises took place. So
yeah,
and we probably did way overshoot it. Yeah.
But that's okay. I mean, it's working out now, so everybody's used to this level of budget, and we're going to continue to focus on keeping those household budgets where they're at, and just shifting the responsibility of the revenues from one source to another, so that we can even that out and the funds can stay healthy, and continue to operate the fine water system we have in the city of Camanche.
Yeah, and by doing that, we're going to dial it in to where we're right where we need to be. So.
And again, that other shift over to the garbage fund, $10,000, that's not a big deal. And that's the fund we want to keep above zero. And that just gives us that little extra wiggle room. And so really the only change that people are going to see in their bill is 40 cents a month in total. So not too shabby for the fiscal year.
No.
Okay. And again, the great thing, I don't mean to keep you, but the great thing too about that water fund now is that we have the ability to bring someone on at the correct wage and keep them here. We've invested a lot of time and energy into our folks, sending them to classes. We paid for them to go to these water classes to get the education that they need. We want to be able to make sure that we reap the benefits of that. We certainly don't want some other city or some other company reaping the benefits of our hard labor. We want to keep that homegrown talent. So that's what we're looking to do there. And still, the water fund comes out ahead. So, gangbusters. Okay, I'm done. That's it. I see everybody rushing to get out of here.
I'm ready to go home.
All right. Your Honor, you can adjourn the meeting, I think.
I guess, yeah, I guess with that being said, we will adjourn.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Your line has been disconnected.